Hey guys, Matthew here, and today I want to bring you guys a very quick video on the state of ball lightning. I know a lot of you guys probably saw the development manifesto saying a slight nerf was coming to ball lightning, and you saw the actual numbers of ball lightning nerf in the patch notes, and you're like, okay, this build is dead. Nobody's ever going to play ball lightning again. This skill is over. Well, I am basically making this video to show to you guys that it's really not, and going to basically try to put in perspective the nerfs versus the damage, what it was versus what it is. So essentially what happened is that the radius, the first thing that happened is that the radius went down from 22 to 18, which is a pretty substantial nerf. If we look at my old POB, this is the old POB that I had made for Harvest League, so for the start of Harvest. If you went through the 22 initial radius and you added the 30% from slower proj, you added the 10% from adjacent animosity, you would get 10 ticks to your ball lightning. Now all you had to do to get up to 13 ticks was that basically you needed to get up to, I believe, 27.5 as a baseline radius. Now, the way that the radius is basically calculated is that you take the baseline radius and you multiply it by the square root of the AoE that you have. So your baseline AoE is 100. So in the old build, I had considered that at all times you had 5 mines down, I believe, which would give you 20% AoE. You had another 30% there for 50%, and then you also had this 10% node for a total of 60%, which means if we do the square root of 1.6 and then we multiply this by 22, it should give us a number that is greater than 27.5 and very close to it. So as you can see, 27.8. And that is how we were getting to this 13 ticks. Now, what happened here, though, is that the baseline radius was lowered to 18. So what happens with the radius being 18 is that when you put in the less projectile speed and the adjacent animosity reducing 10%, you go all the way down to 10 hits per cast. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, but this time what we'll do is that we'll consider that we are getting, again, 5 mines at all times for 20%, 30% here for a total of 50, and then 60%. So we are going to do the same thing. We are going to do the square root of 1.6, but this time multiply it by 18, which gives us 22.76. So let's go ahead and input 22.7, and as you can see, what used to give us 13 ticks, the exact same POB now only gives us 10 ticks. Now this is fairly problematic. But the thing is, the old POB, we have to say, was a little bit pessimistic in how many mines you really have down at all times. If you actually go on your mining character, which uses a tremor rod, and you go in a map and you start clearing your map, you'll see that 5 mines is fairly unrealistic. Realistically, you have more 10 to 15 mines, but 15 might be on the high end. But since tremor rod rearms your mines, it is very, very easy to have 10 mines at all time. Honestly, almost impossible not to have 10 mines at all times if you're using a tremor rod. So let's go ahead and use the new number, which is going to be 10. Now 10 brings us to 40%, 70 with explosive expert, and then 80 with our 1% node here. So we are doing the square root of 1.8 instead, times 18, which is our baseline, which gives us 24.1. If we go 24.1, we go up to 11 ticks. So now, instead of having 13, we have 11, but nothing changed in the POB. Pretty much nothing changed. So I went ahead and rolled some numbers here and found some magic numbers. If you wanted to go back to the good old 13 ticks, with the radius being 18, to go back to 27.5, which is the radius required to get 13 ticks, so 27.5, you would need 2.35 AoE, which is 235% AoE, which is, let's be honest, absolutely unrealistic. So the 13 tick days are gone. Essentially, that's basically what we're going down to. That's what we're getting at. The 13 ticks days are gone. We have to sacrifice one of those ticks for the greater good of the build. And if we do so, the new magic number is 2. So 2 times times 18 gives us 25.4, which, if we input 25.4, it is basically the new threshold for 12 ticks. If we go 25.3, it actually works. If we go 25.2, it no longer works. So the magic number is 25.3, going by, elimination. To get to 25.3, you basically need a square root of 2, which, obviously, you have 100 AoE, meaning you need 100 AoE. If you go to that logic and you have 30% on Explosive Expert, 10 mines at all times for 40%, you are missing 30%. Which means that the only thing that changes in the entire POB that I made for last league, for 3.11 league start, is that instead of having 1 AoE node, you need to take an extra 2. Bringing, if you have at least 10 mines at all times, which realistically you should, you will have over 200% AoE, meaning you will reach the 12 ticks, or 12 hits per cast. So we sacrifice 1 tick, but all we have to do is get 2 points on the tree. Now that can easily be accounted for. You can go ahead and just drop a bit of life, or drop a jewel socket. You could drop some of these mana reserve node. There's a lot of different things you can do to change the tree to make it fit in the fact that you need to get these 2 extra nodes. Another thing you can do is just get 2 extra levels. The initial POB was level 91. This new POB would be level 93, which is still fairly realistic. A very easy way to go, you could drop the entirety of quick recovery, or drop this jewel socket here. It is up to you how you want to go get these 2 extra points. Or just get 2 more levels. All of a sudden, the POB stays the exact same. All that it becomes an issue now is that we lose 1 tick, which means we lose about 7% damage, so 1/13 of our damage. But on top of that, we are losing 20% of our damage decrease. Now, the thing is, the overkill damage on Ball Lightning was so freaking high, that losing this 20% damage doesn't really nerf the build that much. It more likely just puts it in line with all the other skills as a more fair skill, and you could almost say balanced skill. Now, even despite this 20% damage nerf and this loss of 1 tick on our build, I can guarantee you that this is still going to be OP, and that people who play it until they get to the very high-end content, meaning Awakener 8 Cyrus, or Shaper and Elder Guardian maps that are super juiced up, things like that, they will not feel any difference during the leveling section of the build, and they will not feel any difference during killing the bosses of their maps, and they will not feel any difference in the actual mapping itself. The reason being, as I said, the overkill damage on Ball Lightning was so high that simply removing 1/4 of the damage almost does absolutely nothing for the build in terms of kill speed. Because if you think about how much time it took for you to kill, say, a T16 map boss in a regular map, the actual time to kill was probably about 4 seconds. Now, it's 5 seconds. So yes, the extra seconds add up, but does this mean that this 20 chaos build is no longer viable? No. The build itself is still extremely, extremely viable. Now, I know I'm still calling it a 20C despite the fact that Tremor Rod was very, very expensive, but still, the build is still extremely viable, and if your goal is just to push bosses, Ball Lightning Miner is still going to be one of your best available choices. That being said, one thing to note is that the new Crackling Lance could very well be the new Ball Lightning. We don't have the gem available on Path of Building to really start messing around with the numbers. And until we get a feel for the skill and play it itself, it is hard to know if it is going to feel anywhere as good as Ball Lightning does. but it is very possible that Crackling Lance replaces Ball Lightning. That being said, as for the title of the video, the state of Ball Lightning is that it is still very much alive. It is still pretty much the exact same tree, the exact same build, the exact same items. The only thing that changes those 2 extra 10% AoE nodes to get back to 12 ticks. We give up 1 tick. We lose a fair bit of our base damage, which you will not feel. Take my word for it. You will not feel until you get to the very, very end game content, which we were already crushing on a 5-link, meaning all that means is that now you're probably going to need a 6-link to get as much damage as you used to have on a 5-link. But in reality, a 5-link was still more than enough to kill Awakener or 8 Cyrus within seconds. So we're talking about an extra 10 to 20 seconds for the entirety of the Cyrus fight, meaning only a few extra seconds per phase overall, which is, in my opinion, fairly trivial. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, before I go, I want to say a huge thank you to my supporters: Mario, Luro, Gaikona, Kfish, Dr. Radu, Scott, Zarashi, Kevin, Castigas, Matus, and Dieselboy. Huge thank you to you guys. You guys basically made this possible. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this can put a little bit less, or a little bit more rest and calmness in the heart of the people who have been wondering what they would ever do now that Ball Lightning is dead, because trust me, it is still very much alive. Until the next one, that'll be Matthew signing out. Peace.